Nigel. Another Nigel. Nigel is already on the way with his food. We've had a look at his leg, which is
oh dear,
like Frankenstein's head. Basically, we should take a photograph and put it on.
Let's not.
No,
let's definitely not.
So Nigel says, "Greetings, Father Simon and the confessional crew, brother from another gutter, and Sister Katie Susie. What I'm about to tell you has taken me nearly 50 years to confess.
Oh.
So let me take you back to the halcyon days of glam rock. We were playing Slade just a moment ago. Shocking hair and Noel Edmonds on the Radio 1 breakfast show. That's the era that we're in. My story starts at a boys' boarding school for the less well-educationally endowed, somewhere near a seaside resort in Dorset. The school was in an old country house which had seen better days, but retained that smoky leatherette smell when you walked in. Quite sure I know what a smoky leatherette smells like. Presumably it's smoky and a bit leathery.
And smells a bit like leather. Yeah.
Anyway, that's where we are. The teachers, like the pupils, had mostly failed to make it anywhere else, so it ended up in the only place that would take them.
Okay.
Lovely.
Okay. Yeah. It's a very interesting educational establishment Nigel is describing here. Among those teachers was a maths teacher, table tennis fan, goofy-toothed, long-haired, music-loving hipster named Bugsy. I'm afraid real name is withheld, as repercussions could ensue, even though this was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Bugsy, like all the teachers, lived in and had rooms dotted around the country house where we were being educated at. Now, Bugsy was a great vinyl music collector. In fact, his room was full of boxes of them, and when you went past his room, you could always hear the latest hits blaring loudly from within. He boasted that his collection of vinyl album covers had taken years to collect and were very rare. And so to the day in question. As normal, we had an afternoon sports session on a very muddy and wet football pitch for a kick-around, where the participants had as much interest in looking to sneak to a large bush behind one of the goals for a smoke. Hence, a smoky haze of number 6, filter-tipped, used to envelop that end of the pitch.
It was the 70s.
It's the
Come
70s. Everyone smoked when they played football back in those days.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't smoke at
kids.
all, because it's a ridiculously stupid thing to do. Anyway, that's what was happening. Half the players were on the pitch, the other half were behind the bush having a fag. When the game was over, a suitably muddy bunch of teenagers stinking of tobacco headed back into the changing rooms for a well-earned shower. This day, though, was different. The communal showers were only dispensing extremely cold water, so I sneaked off upstairs to the communal bathroom for what I hoped would be a well-earned hot soak. As I started to fill the bath, I realised that I'd left my towel downstairs in the shower room, so I quickly hastened downstairs to retrieve it. When I got there, the games teacher shouted at me as to why I had not yet had my shower, as everyone else had finished and was getting dressed. I made up some quick excuse that was rather feeble and didn't pass the test, and proceeded to freeze myself in the shower. I got out of the shower as quickly as I could, got dressed, and joined the rest of my classmates for our next teaching lesson. If you're listening at all, you'll realise where the danger lies in this confession. At the end of the afternoon lesson, we filed down to our food hall for high tea. This was for many the highlight of the day, as food of any description was a blessed relief from lessons. We sat in rows on long tables, waiting to see what Dickensian delight would be brought out from the kitchen. However, this day was different. No food appeared. Instead, the headmaster, Grimes, BA Honours, Stoke-on-Trent, stormed into the hall, which was most unusual, as he normally never would come anywhere near us when we were eating high tea. He paced into the centre of the hall, his cloak billowing, and loudly and angrily announced that someone had left a bathroom tap running, which had caused a bath upstairs to overflow.
Oh, no.
Worse was to follow, as he then shouted that one of the teachers' rooms had been the victim of a sudden surge of water from a collapsing ceiling. Worse even still, if it could get even worse still, the said teacher had narrowly escaped injury from falling plasterboard. The damage would run into shillings and pence. Maybe a couple of guineas. He demanded to know immediately who had committed this heinous crime, or else there would be harsh repercussions. As you can imagine, the hall went very quiet, with nearly 200 boys all casting around suspicious looks at who the offender could be, but this wasn't the type of educational establishment where anyone admitted to anything. And then the icing on the cake, the hall doors swept open and a very big, draggled, wet teacher, yes, it was Bugsy, appeared holding aloft some very wet and mushy album covers. They were ruined, but we could make out Dark Side of the Moon, soggy, Tubular Bells, very soggy, Brain Salad Surgery, completely ruined. Amongst many of the classics, Father Simon, you play on the album show on Greatest Hits Radio every Sunday afternoon.
So corporate.
Bugsy was shouting that whoever did this would lose an appendage or something like that. Needless to say, no one owned up. As I mentioned, it wasn't that kind of educational establishment. And to make matters worse, Grimes, the head teacher, BA Honours, Stoke-on-Trent, cancelled an upcoming EXIAT, which only helped discourage anyone from coming forward in fear of getting a good beating from other schoolboys. As we mentioned, it was the 1970s.
Yes.
Different times.
I have carried this guilt with me all these years and would like to apologise profoundly and profusely to all schoolboys who remember the incident. To Mr Grimes, BA Honours, Stoke-on-Trent, who'll be turning in his grave, but mostly to Bugsy, who I hope was able to replace his very valuable vinyl collection. Therefore, I humbly request your forgiveness, which you dispense so well on Drive Time. There's Nigel there pleading to get any kind of forgiveness. We'll get the people's verdict in a moment. But Sister Katie Susie, first of all.
Yeah, I really feel for Bugsy because he lost his prized possessions, and ultimately, Nigel, it was because for some reason you thought you were more deserving of a bath than everyone else. Everyone else suffered in those cold showers, and you snuck off when you could have done the same as them, so you are not forgiven.
Brother from another gutter.
Well, I have to say I feel sorry for Nigel. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with baths, by the way. Always have showers. Never sitting in a bath, like sitting in your own filth. So for that reason, normally I would not forgive. However, I'm going to forgive this time because of the threat of cancelling the EXIAT. Try cancelling my EXIAT. That's not going to go well. And I believe no harm, no towel.